Hello. I would like to welcome you to this information session about the NBS PhD program. Here we are to answer all your questions and give you all the reasons for you to join the NBS PhD program. So my name is Georgios Christopoulos. I'm an Assistant Dean of Research for the Nanyang Business School. So for today, I have many of my colleagues from different divisions that are going to describe the specific requirements for each PhD program. So as you can see, we're a very diverse business school. So we have divisions that do research on accounting, marketing, banking and finance, leadership, management, organization, information systems, and strategy and entrepreneurship. We also have two current PhD candidates. I will give you the current experience of what it means to be a PhD student for NBS. So just to say that feel free to post questions on the Q&A. You can write them down, we'll try to answer them, but also at the end of the presentation, there are going to be of the presentation of every presenter. So after Prof Marilyn, we're going to open the floor for questions and answers. So first of all, NBS is in NTU, and NTU is one of the top technological universities in the world, actually, with many departments highly ranked. Some of them are top 3 in the world. But the campus is also a very smart campus, let's say. So many things are tech-enabled here. We have smart learning with more than 280 smart classrooms. And what is important is that the campus itself is used as a test bed to check different technologies and applications. So many of the research is actually done on the campus itself. Graduate studies in NTU are quite strong. So we have over 2,000 PhD students, around 5,000 master students, and more than 1,500 faculty members. Around 70% are international. So this is in NTU. Now, about NBS. So NBS, we have over 270 faculty members that do a lot of research and teaching in different topics. More than 4,000 undergraduate students and around 500 postgraduate participants. That means includes MBA and master programs. We're one of the Asia's leading business school, strategically positioned in Singapore, which combines West and East in terms of culture and philosophy. So we are quite renowned, and that's quite distinct for us, is that we are it's a business school that is very research oriented. We're very interdisciplinary, so we really promote research that crosses across disciplines, not only within the business school, but also with other departments in the university. So we have strong connections with departments in engineering, the medical school, in even mathematics or data analytics. And of course, our research is industry relevant. We have a lot of industrial partners that actually you can be involved during your PhD with. So we have a lot of partnerships also with world-class institutions. That means other universities, but also international organizations. Finally, we're accredited by two important organizations, EQUIC and the AACSB, so it's the Association for Business Schools. This is quite important for you when you decide which business school you want to attend. Please make sure that your schools that you are attending are somehow accredited, probably in one of these two organizations. We are accredited by both, which means that we have high quality in our standards. Now, some quick facts and reasons for you to join NBS. As I said, we are very interdisciplinary. We're actually open to any discipline. Previously, we have a very diverse set of candidates that actually very successfully finished their PhD. So we have people that did software engineering, geography, liberal arts, psychology, computer science. Anything actually is welcome in the business school as long as it's somehow related to business. So I encourage everyone, you don't need to have a business degree or business experience, no need to have a business experience to join NBS. We have excellent placement. I'm going to show you some results later. And also I have to say that most, if not all our people that finish, students that finish our degrees, directly find an assistant professor positions. They don't go to do a postdoc. This is most of the cases. The people that didn't go to academia actually went to industry. So any PhD is actually going to go to work in the industry, and usually it's research related position, so they don't leave research or academia altogether, but they also go on to have a very successful career. So NBS has good reputation, both academically, but also in the industry, in Singapore and overseas. We have excellent infrastructure, so we have labs, so you can do behavioral research, you have access to databases that are needed for archival research. So the infrastructure, all you need to do your research is actually here. And of course, as I said before, we have connections with industry, and many professors actually work with industry and try to solve problems that are both industry relevant, but also academically important. To clarify, all right, the PhD is an academic and research-oriented course. It's not for you to start a career in business. If you want to do a career in business, you should go attend an MBA. Our MBA actually is also very highly ranked. But here you have to make it clear, this is for you to want to follow an academic career or to do research. So these are the specializations we cover. You're going to hear more details later about each of them, but I have to say that we encourage cross-fertilization between the specializations. So it could happen that you could work with different divisions, all right? So they're not silos. Like if you join marketing, you could very well work with somebody as well as a co-PI, somebody who is in information systems. In terms of research, so we have many research centers that actually these are different from divisions because they do very specific research on topics that are important. All of them are very well funded and also very well connected with the industry. You will not be necessarily needed to be affiliated to any of these research centers, but the point is that there is a lot of expertise in these research centers that can help you navigate your research questions. Finally, there is a lot of research that shows that the environment that you work in actually determines your productivity. This is very well known. And intuitively, you can understand that if you are in a nice office, you will produce much more and much better compared to if you are in a not very good office. So your cohort, when you join, you're going to also joining this amazing new building we're going to have. Is Asia's largest prefabricated wooden building, so it's also sustainable. And this is to prove that we're not only doing research on sustainability, but actually we are sustainable ourselves. But this is going to be brand new with many facilities, many ways to interact, but also to spaces that you can, for instance, you want to concentrate and work on by yourself. Also, there will be many spaces and opportunities there. So that's actually a very distinct reason to come to NBS. Now, I need how to remove that. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now What exactly the program is around 4 to 5 years, 5 years usually. In the beginning, there is some coursework, so to make sure that you understand the basics of business and you get the important research skills that you need to have. So that's why I said that it doesn't matter which discipline you come from, because we're going to teach you what you need to know. Okay, so in year 2, you're going to have a qualifying examination, and then from years 3 to 5, we use speed up to do research. So we try in the last 3 years to give you all the resources and time for you to do the proper research. But sometimes while you do your research, you might need additional seminars and programs, and we also offer that. We also offer summer paper, brown bag seminar. So before you go and do your final oral defense, you're going to have many opportunities to present your research. So you get familiar of what it means to present a research program. Also, we encourage all our students to participate in international conferences, sometimes even from year 1. So this gives exposure to other researchers, but also it gives you opportunity to network for when you want to apply for a position after you finish your PhD. Now, in terms of job placements, since 2009, we have placed people all over the world, not only Asia. So you can see we have people in the US, in Canada, in Europe, in UK, Australia, a lot of people, and of course, a lot of people are in Singapore as well. So we have people that are positioned in Singapore as well, and that means we are also well respected in the area. Now, also this is not the only placement, because we actually have a special slide for people that went back to China, and actually we have our graduates are all over China. So NBS is has very good reputation actually in China, and I think in almost a major university you will go, you will find an NBS graduate. So China includes China, Hong Kong, and Macau as well. So what do you need to be admitted to NBS? In summary, a good bachelor or master's degree. Non-business students are welcome, as I said before. Business experience is not needed. It's also welcome, but it's not needed. You need to have a good GMAT or GRE score taken within the past 5 years. We don't have hardcore limits on what you should have, but this is an average of people that we have accepted. Of course, you need a good TOEFL or IELTS to demonstrate that your English is of good standard. But if you have, if your first degree university use English, for instance, you are in NTU or an American university, you don't need to take a TOEFL. Most important, you need to be passionate about research and teaching. You have to be motivated, and you are willing to take up challenges. And we try to assess these characteristics during the interviews. So this is quite important. The PhD is a life decision. So you're going to devote your next 5 years, if not your whole life, in a project that involves essentially research. So you should really like to do research. This is something very important. We have scholarships that our graduates get. I will start from on the right. The typical one is the research scholarship, the RSS. So you need to have an honors and covers tuition fee and monthly living allowance for up to 4 years. And the award is renewable every year, subject to good progress. Typically, it's renewable, so don't worry about that. Unless you really disappear from the university, I don't think we will not renew your award. The most prestigious scholarship is on the left, the Nanyang President Graduate Scholarship. There is no restriction about the nationality. You must have an honors degree. It has covers tuition fee, and the allowance is larger, actually. Again, the award is renewable. The point here is that you need to compete with across the university. So it's not within business school. So these are the allowances that the NBGS offers. Whereas, so NBGS, you will need, if you want to go to NBGS, you will need to apply to this dedicated website. If you Google it, you can find it, so don't worry. But the point is that you will also need to be nominated by NBS. So you need to apply to NBS for the PhD and also apply for the NPGS. Basically, what happens when we have some students that apply to NBS and we consider that they're very good, we also encourage them to apply to NPGS so they can take this scholarship. But just formally speaking, from an administrative point of view, you need to apply for both of these, both NPGS and NBS. This is the NTU Research Scholarship, so you can see it's a little bit lower compared to NPGS. However, I think it's okay for a PhD student, and we try to support. Now, I see some people already have some questions, but we're going to accept questions at the very end, and meanwhile, we're going to try to answer the questions in writing. So I will ask my colleague, Prof Zhang, from accounting, to take over and describe what are the specifics for his program.
Thank you, George. Okay, so before I start, I would like to remind the audience to type your question in the Q&A section, because I got an after this. This specialization, please type your questions, and I will try to answer them after my presentation. Okay, so I'm going to begin my presentation. I'm going to share my screen, and I think this is the one. Okay. Okay, so you can see my screen, right? All right, okay. So basically, my job is to introduce PhD in accounting. Now, PhD in accounting, let me just, okay. Now, what do we do for PhD in accounting? Well, basically, we focus on accounting research, and we study how accounting information is used by capital market participants, either through data analysis or controlled experiments. For example, we study whether investors make mistakes in understanding certain accounting information and how judgments by capital market participants are influenced by the way information is presented. I know it sounds pretty abstract, but basically what we do is we try to analyze how accounting information is used by the capital market. And we do either data analysis, basically we play with big data, or we do experiments. Now, we have been ranked very high. According to the publication records of PhD graduates in the most recent 3 years, we're #1 in Asia and number 36 in the world. In comparison, in the US, the National University of Singapore, I think many of you may be also interested, is ranked number 86 in the world. Hong Kong UST, Hong Kong University of Science Technology, is ranked number 45, and University of Hong Kong is ranked number 86. And as a matter of fact, we have been ranked within top 40 of the world for the last consecutive 4 years. So this is a highly ranked program. Now, we have been able to enjoy good student placements, and as you can see from the slide, we are placing students everywhere, as George mentioned. Some of our students go to Australian National University, some go to Chinese University of Hong Kong, Shenzhen campus, some go to the US, University of Hawaii, some go to University of Massachusetts, Amherst, University of South Carolina. In short, I think we are pretty proud that our students are highly sought after, and many become stars in academia. academic profession. And here I'm just going to leave some of our outstanding alumni. Now, the first one will be Professor Lian Dongzhang. He is now the Li Kongqiang Professor of Accounting and Associate Dean of School of Accountancy at Singapore Management University. And another outstanding student is Yi Lane, and he's now a tenured professor at University of Massachusetts at Amherst. And here's another one, Hui Fang. He graduated in 2011, and he was promoted to full professor at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics after 8 years in 2019. So, in sum, I think we have a very, obviously our opinions are biased, but I think we have a outstanding program, and we definitely welcome you to join us. Let me see whether I got some questions that I need to answer. Let me just end the slideshow. Okay. Grant A. Okay, I don't really see any questions that specifically address to accounting. Well, if you have these questions, you can always type it up, and I will try to answer them through emails. You can send your email to the PhD office.
I think somebody asked how many PhD students the accounting may recruit for a year.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that. We don't have many slots. In the past 2 years, we only have 2 students each year. I think, I'm sorry that I missed it. Let me just do another check. Yes, there is a question, can I just apply for PhD in accountancy? Yes, you can, you definitely can. Then next question is, will most of the accounting PhD do research on behavior economics or capital market? Well, that is a choice you will make. Basically, when you apply, you're going to, definitely you have to do some research about what is the behavior research, what is the capital market research, and then you can decide at the time of the admission whether you want to go for the capital market, which is basically based upon data analysis, or go with the behavior track, which is basically research through doing experiments. The requirement for GPA for accounting department, well, I think we consider obviously the higher the better. We don't really have a firm requirement on GPA because we understand that different universities may have different criteria. Some of the universities, they may be tougher giving good grades. So we don't really have any firm requirement on GPA. Okay, did I miss anything, George? Is there anything else related to accounting that?
There are some questions in the chat window, not in the Q&A, but the chat window.
What is? I'm looking at the questions, answers now. Which one?
Like one is, are there particular accounting courses in undergrad or master program that can help me prepare?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't see that. Well, it's well, if you have previously learned accounting, that's definitely a plus. Obviously, the more you know about accounting, the better you are qualified. However, we have to emphasize that we do not require you to be accounting major. It is plus, we admitted that, but it's, as George said earlier, we are open to everybody. For example, if you have a background in economics or even in mathematics, we'll definitely consider, because our, we are basically training researchers. Now, good researchers, it will be a plus if you know accounting practice. But there are some good researchers that we observe over the years who do not have accounting background, but they are very proficient in data analysis, or they are very good at economics, and those students have done really well from our program. So it is going to be helpful if you take those accounting or finance courses, but it's not a must. How should I apply for this PhD? I believe the right way will be just go to our website. You can just go to our PhD programs website, right? George, correct me if I'm wrong. You just go to our website and there's a link, and you just submit all your documents, required documents through the links, and then your documents will arrive at the division, and then we are going to consider the applicants' documents, basically those documents submitted by you and other applicants, and then we are going to make a decision according to the timeline that George have described earlier. I also see here, what's the extent of the proposal we should submit? Is abstract alone sufficient? Well, to be honest, I would say that if you can write a more detailed proposal, that will be more helpful. Because the reason why we want you to submit a proposal is we want to sort of make a judgment on your ability to do research. And if you just write a paragraph, it's going to be a bit difficult for us to judge your qualifications. So if you have a concrete proposal, I would say it's definitely a plus if you can write it down in details, because we want to know you better in order to make a decision. Okay, I think there's a GMAT question. I think I'm probably not in a good position to answer that. I think you can probably contact the PhD office if you have a question on that. Yeah, I see a question, if Master of Engineering, Data Analytics, yes, obviously you can apply for MBA Accounting or PhD. As we said, as I just said, 1 hour track is really based upon data analysis. And recently we are seeing a trend of using AI in our research. So if you have expertise in data analysis, you will certainly, this skill is definitely valued by our program. I also see here is the research proposal should be 2 to 3 pages. I think in practice you can go longer than that. But it's George. You can correct me if this is a misunderstanding. Okay. Yeah. There's no firm requirement, because I would think that they can, if they have a 20-page proposal, I would welcome that, because that will show that you are pretty serious about doing research. Okay. Okay, what quality do you expect from a potential PhD student? Well, I think that's I think George's presentation pretty much answers the question. You need to be passionate about research and teaching. You need to be interested in doing research. Can I have a job as well, having a part-time accounting PhD? Well,
no.
The answer is no.
It's a full-time.
It's a full-time. It's a full-time. Yes. Okay, I think that's basically. I think here I'm seeing a question about strategy. Perhaps it's a good time for me to bow out and pass the baton to Huang Jie, who is going to talk about marketing. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to talk about the marketing program. So I am the coordinator for the Division of Marketing PhD program. So let me first start by talking about basically what our program is about. So we actually have two tracks of the marketing program. One track is consumer behavior, and the other track is quantitative marketing. So essentially, in the consumer behavior track, we try to look at the kind of the psychological aspect of consumer behavior. And mostly we use experimental or mixed method techniques to help us understand, how consumers think, how consumers behave in a certain fashion. And we also try to look at how different factors, such as, the individual factors, situational factors, and also social factors, how would those kind of different variables influence how consumers choose, buy, as well as consume things. And in the quantitative marketing track, we try to basically use quantitative methods to analyze applied marketing problems. So for example, we would use like statistical, econometric, or nowadays like machine learning techniques to help us examine topics such as, buyer-seller interactions, consumer choices, process, social influence, how firms can optimally allocate their choice in the marketing environment, and etc. So we studied a lot of different topics. I would say that I think the main difference between the two tracks is actually the kind of method we do. Okay, so for the consumer behavior track, which is also known as the CB track, we mostly use experimental method. Nowadays, we also use a lot of mixed methods, combining experiments with some data analysis to help us understand a certain problem. For the quantitative marketing track, we mostly use those kind of statistical, econometric, or machine learning kind of techniques to help us understand a certain problem. So we might actually be looking at very similar problems, but it's just the type of method that we use a bit different. And of course, nowadays, we also have this kind of combined or mixed method approach. So you might actually be doing some of the CV work and some of the quantitative marketing work. So it really depends on your background and also the kind of research you want to pursue. So the type of people we're looking for. So for this consumer behavior track, we're mainly looking at people who have kind of a good training or some kind of background in psychology or business related majors. But of course, it's not really like a hard requirement. So it's like, if you have some training, you have some knowledge in psychology, in business related majors, that's of course a plus. But, if you are majored in some other disciplines, but you are passionate about consumer behavior, of course, you should also apply. Okay, so for example, like I study consumer behavior and I major in economics, but, I took a double major in psychology because I'm kind of very passionate about that discipline in my undergraduate studies, and I applied for the CB track. So it's really about whether you're passionate about this area or not. And of course, if you have some kind of training in psychology or marketing or business related majors, that's definitely a plus. In terms of quantitative marketing, because you will be expected to do a lot of those kind of quantitative analyses, ideally, we would like to see some kind of training or some kind of background in related areas. For example, you could be like a major in economics, statistics, computer science, or even mathematics, engineering, as long as you have some like prior knowledge, prior exposure to different techniques, or at least you have the ability to do those kind of analysis, then these are definitely a plus. But again, it really depends on your interest. So of course, as I mentioned, these are just kind of what we are looking for, but most importantly, I think in addition to the GMAT, the TOEFL, or the English proposals, those kind of requirements, what we're really looking for are those people who are really intellectually curious and you are always kind of wondering, why, I do certain things in my daily life, why companies, behave certain way, or what kind of things would make, a promotion or make, a movie or even a product more successful, right? If you're always kind of interested in those kind of questions, then maybe, doing a PhD might be a path for you. And we actually have a very good placements for our PhD students. So these are the recent graduates from our marketing program. So you can see that our students have been placed in Hong Kong, in Europe, in Singapore, as well, in China, in the US, and everywhere in the world, right? So our program is actually really highly ranked as well in the world, and we have a lot of productive faculty and who are willing to actually work with PhD students. So, so I think, if you want to join the marketing program, I think it's a very good choice. And I would like to end with this quote, which actually kind of motivated me to pursue a PhD study, because I think nowadays a lot of people just decide to go to the industry because, not because they are passionate about it, but because everyone else is doing that, right? We feel kind of safe to just follow whatever other things, what other things people do. But at some point, maybe when you think about, what you want to do next, maybe, taking the road that is less traveled by others, but the road, the path that you're actually more passionate about could actually turn out to be very rewarding. So I'd like to end with this quote, and I will answer the questions related to the marketing program, I think, at the end. So now I'll pass the time to Prof. Wang from Banking and Finance Division.
Thank you so much, Kwangji. So I'll be talking about the Banking and Finance Division. So we have people doing work in actuarial science. So they're studying questions tied to insurance risk management. And then we have people in traditional finance. So within traditional finance, we have some people doing work on corporate finance, which is asking how do managers behave and why? And then we also have people doing work in investments, which is asking how do investors' financial markets behave and why? If you're considering our program, you don't have to know whether you want to do corporate or investments. That's something you'll figure out down the road. It would be good for us if you give us a sense of whether you're more interested in actuarial science or traditional banking and finance. This is something to consider. So what do we try to do in our division is we're trying to prepare you for a job in academia. So that's our goal. Now, some of you down the road towards the end might then end up working for industry, which is fine, but since we're really trying to prepare you for a job in academia, it's also a little bit of a waste. Now, what do we offer? I think we have a pretty good set of courses, and that's not a given. Like a lot of universities, they'll have maybe 2, 3 PhD courses, and then you're on your own. But we have a really solid set of courses in corporate finance, investments, accounting, economics, and econometrics. And we're subscribing to all the major research-oriented databases. And I think at the faculty, we're pretty helpful. And so I think when you put all of these together, you'll have everything you need to succeed. Now, what do we look for? And this is my last slide. I mean, this being finance, that shouldn't come as a surprise that you should be comfortable with numbers. You should ideally have some coding experience. Python would be preferred. Like the direction our field is moving, we're increasingly working with non-traditional data like text, using non-traditional methods like machine learning, deep learning. And for that, Python is, I think, works the best. It's not a must, but it's going to be really helpful. If you already know how to code, then when you finally have like an interesting research idea, you're kind of ready to go. The other thing that's actually very important, and a lot of people I don't think realize that, is that you need to be really good at writing and communicating. right? Finance is a social science. It's not a hard science. Right? So you got to be a good storyteller. Right? So you do research. Let's say you uncover some interesting patterns. You got to wrap all of that into a simple, cohesive story so that it's very easy for others to understand what you're doing, what the implications are, and why we should care. So you really need to be good at that in writing and also verbally as you present your work at conferences and seminars. So as we interview people, we're also going to look for that. And that's it from banking and finance. I'll also answer any finance-related questions towards the end, and I'll pass Thomas Rockstuhl will now talk a bit about leadership, management, and organization.
Thank you, Prof. Wang. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Prof. Thomas Rockstuhl. I represent the Division of Leadership, Management, and Organization. Maybe just before I give you a little bit background on our LMO division, just a quick reminder for those who have joined later. If you can type your questions that you have for the presenters into the Q&A chat of Zoom, and we will answer those questions towards the end of all our presentations. Okay, to give you a little bit of background about what our division does. Very, very broadly, we cover 3 broad research areas that are leadership, organizational behavior, and what we call human capital, or maybe human resource, or sometimes also called talent management. I'll show you here actually a scientometric network of the collaboration topics that our faculty are doing. And the reason for that is to give you a sense of, even though we are covering those broad 3 topics, actually within those 3 topics, we have a lot of specific and broad-ranging topics that you can engage in. So we have a very strong research cluster that's around personality assessments and psychometrics. We have very strong research around decision-making, affect and emotion, physiology, and how that affects decision-making, personal management, cognition, basic psychology, employment. Leadership is a very big research topic within our faculty, cultural intelligence, or how culture affects the research, or how the working environment or context affects the work that people do. And we use a wide range of methodologies as well as part of our research. So that ranges from survey and quantitative methodology to experiments to biological research. So we actually have a whole research cluster that is studying biological perceptions in the OB field. 2 aspects of our division that are perhaps particularly unique is one that a lot of our colleagues are particularly interested in the influence of culture or context on behavior in organizations. And here Singapore, sitting at the sort of bridge between the East and the West, is obviously a fantastic place to do that kind of research. The second unique characteristics of our faculty is that most of us will have a very strong scientist practitioner orientation. What that means is that we kind of do 2 kinds of research that interconnect with each other. So on the one hand, we do very basic scientific research, but we never just stop at understanding the basics of the science. We always want to go into the actual practice world and help companies solve real problems with the insight that we generate from the science, and that's the practitioner side of our research model. And then, of course, throughout those collaborations with industry and with organizations, we actually gain a lot of insights again that would inform the next round of basic research that we do. So in that sense, we kind of constantly go back and forth between science and basic science and the practice in the world. Amongst our faculty, we have quite a number of current or former editors or in-chief or associate editors or people who sit on editorial boards of all of the major journals in management and organizational behavior. So this includes the Academy of Management journals, the Journal of Applied Psychology, Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Human Resource Management, or Group and Organization Management. So you're also going to be tapping into a network of people who are not just researchers themselves, but they're also sort of stewards of the research field and organizational behavior and management in a broader sense. It comes with that, obviously, that our colleagues are also publishing or aiming to publish in a lot of the top journals that are associated with management. So we publish quite wisely in Academy of Management journals, Journal of Applied Psychology, and so on. The last thing that I also wanted to show is that when you are entering our faculty as a PhD student, you're not just entering like a local Singaporean research enclave, you're actually also tapping into a much wider network of collaborations that our faculty have with people all over the world. And here I've just plotted the collaboration network of our faculty, and you can see that we work together with people from all over the world. Obviously, a lot of collaborations with people in the US, but also Europe and Asia in the wider sense. So in that sense, you are also getting access to those research networks when you're entering our PhD program. The last thing that I wanted to say is that if we think about our approach to PhD supervision, I would highlight two aspects of it. One is that we are very collaborative in our approach. So that means we are looking for PhD students who are showing a lot of initiative in driving their own research topics and wanting to make an impact in the world. And our role as supervisors is primarily to be mentors or guidance for our students. So we take a mentoring approach that, we will collaborate with you and will guide you in the right direction. But we're actually hoping that you will be groomed to be the next generation of impactful LMO scholars. If you do have any specific questions, you can also email me later on at this particular email address when it goes beyond the questions that we may not have been answering as part of the group chat. So with that, I will hand over to Chenya, who is one of our PhD students in the accounting division, and she will give you an initial sense of what life as a PhD student is like.
Thanks, Prof. Thomas. So now let me share my experience as a PhD student in NBS. First, let me do some self-introduction. My name is Qian Yue, and I'm from accounting division. I have studied in NBS for 3 years, so this is my 3rd year in NBS. So overall, I think it's been a great experience studying in NBS. So first, let me overall introduce the academic life in NBS. So in the 1st year, we take several courses. So personally, I think I take like not only courses in accounting, but also courses in finance and organizational behavior. I also take courses from Prof. Thomas and Prof. Georgios. So I think taking courses from different divisions actually helped me to connect all the knowledge together, because in accounting, actually we always borrow the scientific knowledge from other disciplines. And then at the end of year 2, we will have a summer paper proposal. So which means we do not necessarily to have the data at this stage. However, we need to have our own hypothesis development and do some literature review at this stage. Then we need to present in front of the division, but this requirement may differ across different departments. And then in the 2nd year, we're gonna have the QE. So to my best knowledge, all the students in my year, we all successfully passed the QE. So from my experience, as long as you carefully attend your lecture and you put a reasonable effort at the QE, you will pass it. I know there are some PhD programs, they kick off students after the QE, but however, we are not that kind of program. So I think all the students I know, like senior students or students in my own year, we all pass the QE. So do not worry about the QE. You will definitely pass it as long as you put efforts in your study. And then in the end of year 2, we're gonna have a summer paper. At this stage, we're gonna have a complete paper at this stage with the data, with a good writing, and then present to the division. And then in year 3, this is the year I am in. So right now, usually some students, we have a teaching load, which means we're gonna teach 1 semester in year 3, sometimes in the 1st semester, sometimes in the 2nd semester. So because we all need to teach after we graduate, right? So I think 1 semester of teaching load can help us increase our teaching skills. And overall, I feel NBS is a supportive and warm family. All the faculty here, they are very passionate about research, and they are also very patient when they answer student questions. I remember when I was in year 1, I always had like very naive questions, but all the faculty members, they are very patient and they provide very detailed answers no matter what kind of stupid questions we ask. And for the student here, actually PhD students, we have our own student committee, and the student committee tries to organize some events like career sharing or some other events to relax students, because we all know PhD journey definitely is a very challenging journey. So it's good for mental health when we gather together and do some things other than study. And also, I think one unique advantage of studying in Singapore is we can take lectures from NUS and SMU. For me, this semester, I am taking course from NUS, and my friends, they also take courses from NUS and SMU. And for accounting division, and I believe other divisions also do so, we invite guest speakers from other universities in United States, in Europe, or in Australia. PhD students are encouraged to raise questions in these academic seminars. So these academic seminars are good opportunities for us to connect with researchers from other universities and to improve our communication skills. And now I will pass to Xiaodan, another PhD student, to share her experience.
Okay, all right. I think everyone can share I can see my screen properly. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Here is Xiaodan. And in the next couple of minutes, I would like to share my experience as a current PhD student at NBS. Maybe just give you some small tests what you can expect when you join the program. Okay, to start off, my name is Shao Xiaodan. You can call me Xiaodan. I'm a current PhD student from Operations Management under the I-10 division. I think I'm the most fresh PhD student because I'm joined NBS in August 2022, just 3 months ago. And I think during these 3 months, I have completed 2 projects, and so far that's why I already have 2 working papers right now. But I'm going to say I cannot complete this project alone without the support from all I get. I'm going to show you what kind of support I have get from NBS. The most importantly is that from NBS, there are quite multiple world-renowned faculties who can give you a very sharp insights for your project or your topics in a very innovative way, and will provide very powerful suggestions for your research and topics. You will not have any restrictions to work with anyone you want just because you have some overlap interest in. The next, what is nice at NBS is the interdisciplinary nature about the research at NBS, just like Chen Yue mentioned. For example, I'm from the I-10 division. I also have a lot of joint research from back with other departments at NBS, such as marketing and LMO. And in this kind of joint research from back, you can become a speaker just to share your project, even at a very early stage, to seek a lot of feedback or comments to how to improve your paper. Or you can just become an audience to listen to others' presentation, to learn from others, how do they tell their stories or what kind of methodologies they use. Besides these interactions within NBS, we also have a lot of interactions with very prestigious universities in Singapore, such as INSEAD, NUS, and SMU. I think one of my project was presented at INSEAD, and I got a lot of tons of very useful feedbacks and comments there, and have very good interactions with the professors and the PhD students from the other universities. Okay, well, I think doing a PhD is quite a challenge but a rewarding journey. So people around you is quite important to help you get through it. As I mentioned, the most important is supervisor and faculties. There are a lot of world-class academics at NBS who are involved and collaborative in your research. They can they can teach you or train you a lot of things from how to do the literature review, or how to learn some new methodologies, how to implement it into your research. And you have the flexibility to work with any professors or PhD students from other departments just because you have some overlap interest. And another very important one, I have met a lot of intelligent seniors and peers at NBS who are happy to share or give you very necessary suggestions or support to help you get through all the entire journey. I think the restrictions for the pandemic almost gone here. We almost meet every day at the PhD office, which provided by the NBS. There are quite a lot of infrastructures provided by NBS here. For example, there is a quite fancy office, or you can have your cabinet where you can focus on research. And for this meeting room, you can share your ideas or projects, discuss with your partners. And what a lovely place for the PhD students is the lounge here. You can have meals or interact with each other at here, or just you need some space to chill by yourself. I think overall the experience at the NBS is quite pleasant for me, and all the best for your application so that you can enjoy this kind of journey for yourself soon. That's all I have for today. Thank you. I think let's welcome Prof Ben Choi to introduce the program of information system.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Ben. Okay, I think you can see my screen now. I'm the coordinator for the Department of Information System, which is part of the Division of Information Technology and Operation Management. That's ITOM. Our student has just talked to you about our OM side of things. All right, so to get things organized within the information system department, we largely organize our student in terms of their coursework as well as their research based on these two tracks. These two tracks are basically constructed by considering the research interests as well as expertise among our faculty members. So in general, we have a behavioral track as well as an econ track. The econ track basically focuses or have an emphasis on economics in the sense that the kind of research that people typically work on, not at the individual level, but more towards like intervention, policy, companies and firm and organizational level. There are several very interesting topics, and that is generating a lot of interest, and essentially that published very well currently. For example, in terms of mobile analytics, of AI in particular. So there's a lot of talks about how we use AI to change, for example, company performance. AI and healthcare, there's an area that is drawing a lot of tractions, where we have several faculties already receiving big research grants and setting up research teams. Behavioral nudging, that's essentially one of our expertise of our chair professor, where he has very extensive experience looking at how to implement various digital nudges to change the consumer behavior as well as performance of various marketing strategies. And finally, at large, this track focuses on digital platforms as well as ecosystem. So you can imagine, for example, looking at questions with regards to the changes of App Store in terms of its advertisement policy, as well as its privacy disclosure requirement, how this actually affects all the stakeholders within the App Store ecosystem. The other track, which is the one on top, is about behavioral track. Within this track, we typically look at individual level behavior. So in a way, we are interested to look at the effects of technology solutions influencing individual consumers, individual users, and at large, what is the societal impact and economic impact as well. Some of us have very vast experience looking at IT career and workforce. So a good example will be, you can imagine how LinkedIn profile actually changes our career development, not immediately, but over the course of 10 years. We also have very extensive research in terms of information presentation and decision making. This is closely related to the cutting edge of the technology development now, where managers and decision makers, they no longer just rely on their gut feeling in making decisions, but rather they're supported with various array of technological solutions, be it analytics, visualizations, AI, and ML. So what we are interested within this is to try to understand how technology augment and sometimes unexpectedly diminishes the ability to make sound decisions. And finally, we do look at visualization design, which is pretty much about storytelling as well, but it's a digital storytelling perspective and understanding world challenge topics such as sustainability issue, as well as increasing human performance. So overall, the department is interested to understand how we can use technology to improve lives, improve company performance, and understand the societal impact as well. Here's the list of our faculties. This is not all of them because of page limit. We do have a very good representation in terms of editors in the top 2 journals in IS. There's MIS Quarterly and Information System Research. We have senior editors within our faculty members. We also have associate editors at the top journals, as well as other journals within our discipline. And of course, we do have a group of very young and energetic and people who are very, very willing to help you, young professors, to work together hand in hand with you. Here's our list of students. The reason that I'm putting this up is to give you a sense in terms of the background of our students. They do come with different trainings from different countries. In terms of emphasis, as you may already know, we are looking at essentially trying to understand the impact of technology. So any technology related training will be very helpful. Programming, be it Python, R, or any other programming languages, are certainly something that you can consider, and that will be helpful not just in the PhD program, but in the future when you are working as an IS academic. Very likely you will be involved in teaching some technological courses. So technological training will be important. Similar to other disciplines, we do also require you to have some quantitative skills, which is the statistical skills. And if you are interested to focus on the econ skill, economic trainings will certainly be very important. But do not worry, if you're unable to decide at this moment, we can work that out along the way. But if you have some idea, certainly they will become very, very helpful in terms of the focus of coursework that you want to do, as well as identifying people that you can work with. With that, I have come to the end of my slide. So I would like now to hand over the time to my colleague.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for coming to this webinar. So I will be explaining a bit about the specialization in strategy, international business, and entrepreneurship. So my name is Marilyn Angoy. I'm an associate professor and also the SIE PhD program coordinator. So, all right. So I want to emphasize that our specialization, our PhD program, is really very interdisciplinary. So unlike probably the other specializations, we do not have tracks or specific topic areas that you are exclusively focusing on. In fact, our research tends to be very interdisciplinary, and in terms of the theories and the approaches, the empirical approaches that we use, it's also very much interdisciplinary. So I think that is a trademark of the type of research that we do in SIE. And in terms of the journals that we publish, we do aim for the top journals in our field. And here are just some examples. And as you can see, many of these are actually in topics related to strategy, international business, and entrepreneurship in some ways or forms. And in terms of the collaboration, we do collaborate with our students as well in terms of how we come about with the research ideas and publish in top-tier journals. In terms of our student placement, so I think the products that we tend to produce, so to speak, in terms of the placements, the initial placements after graduation. So our aim is really to get our scholars to be in academic institutions and research institutions, because the program is really more focused on academic research. So as you can see, in terms of our graduates, they are in reputable universities. And this is actually the aim of our program in terms of the final goal is really academic careers of the students. And besides the fit between your career aspirations and the program, what we're looking at in terms of the PhD applicants is really the right motivation in terms of the aptitude and passion for research and education. We embrace interdisciplinarity in terms of our theoretical perspectives as well as our empirical approaches. So we draw from economics, psychology, and sociology. And we also have our students to be developed in our program to be prepared both in terms of local and international academic careers. So thank you very much. All right, and I think George will be facilitating the Q&A. George, over to you.
Thanks to everyone. I see there are many questions. So let's take first questions for marketing, because I think Kwanzia wants to go. Have you identified some questions that you want to answer?
Okay, so maybe I can try to answer a few questions related to marketing that I see. So the first question I see is that if I want to apply for a quantitative marketing track, should I learn some quantitative methods like machine learning before application? So I think my answer will be yes. So because our quantitative marketing track requires you to have the relevant training in certain areas. So I think if you would have some prior exposure, that of course that will be a plus. But I think another kind of important tip is actually to just read the journals that we actually publish, right? So for example, if you're interested in quantitative marketing, I think maybe a starting point would be, first of all, check out our faculty members' webpage and check out the papers that they publish and see what are the methods and techniques that they use, and potentially these could be something that you could actually start looking into, right? And the second thing is that you can look at the journals that we publish, like Marketing Science, Journal of Marketing Research, Journal of Marketing, Journal of Consumer Research, and check out what are the methods that are being used at the current stage. So I think these will help you to understand what are the methods we're looking at, and how you can actually better prepare for your application. So I think the second question is related to both marketing and OB. So the student asked, for QE in CB or OB, do students need to pass both exams of CB and Quant, or both exams of OB and strategy? So I'll answer the marketing part. Okay, so in marketing, what happens is that if you're specialized in CB, then for your QE, so for the courses that you will be taking, you will be taking both CB courses and also Quant courses. Okay, but when it comes to the QE, we will actually customize the QE for different specialization. Okay, so there will be like a certain part that we will cover the so-called the breadth, in the sense that you need to understand different areas, but there are also components that we try to look at the depths, which is more related to your research. So essentially, we will not have two exams for CB and Quant. Rather, what will happen is that we will customize the QE for each student based on their research specialization. And if you're CB track, you're most likely to get more CB kind of questions because this is the kind of the path you would like to pursue. And of course, if you're quant, and we might be a little bit lighter on CB when it comes to QE, and we're more focusing on the quantitative training and skills. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else in the.
Did you answer the assess about the QE in consumer behavior?
Yeah, so I just answered the question on QE, which so I think the strategy and OB department, they can talk about their QEs. The other thing that I think I'll briefly mention, I think I answered in the Q&A before, is that in terms of the research topics. So actually, I think sustainability and technology are two very emergent topics in different business areas, including marketing. So a lot of our faculty members actually have interests in these areas. So again, I would strongly encourage you to check out our faculty members' web pages and check out what are the research that we do. And if you have questions about certain issues, certain area, feel free to reach out to us and ask questions. I think that's all for the marketing part. Maybe I'll pass the time to some other divisions, and I'll check if there are any marketing related questions later.
So I want to say that we are missing the coordinator for operation management, but feel free to send an email or ask your questions, and we'll try to answer offline or online if we can for the operation management. Also, I want to say that there is a possibility for self-funded PhD if you find a way. Some people find scholarships from their own country, or other people have the money themselves and they are self-funded. Finally, I see many people asking, for instance, I have a bachelor's, but my master's has very high grades, so would that be useful, etc. So I need to say that we examine each application holistically. We don't have very strict cutoff criteria. So you might have, your grades might not be very good, but you have a lot of research experience. As an example, that might make it up for you. So we encourage you to apply. Maybe you can even ask your potential supervisor. But generally, we are not strict. But of course, you need to have something good to demonstrate. All right. So that's what I want to say. Maybe let's start from the end. So Marilyn seems to have a lot of questions to answer.
Me, okay.
Can you see the?
I just see the chat, webinar chat. So I see one question about how is the supervision arrangement like in SIE? So do you guide the student in choosing the supervisor, or do we have to meet our supervisor? So in the first year, you are assigned a mentor. Okay, so this professor may or may not be your supervisor at the end. Okay, so from there, you will be guided accordingly as to your topic and your research. And in your second year, then you decide whether you will keep working with this professor and eventually he or she will be your supervisor, or you will switch. So again, it is understood that your first assigned mentor may or may not be your supervisor. Of course, each professor would have a different working style. So it really depends on how you and the professor have agreed in terms of the regularity of your meetings and all that. So I hope that addresses your question. All right, so I see, okay, one more question. To be at the job market with top-tier publications in IB and strategy, around what year do candidates submit their work? I heard that the review process takes more than 2 years. Okay, it is true that the review process takes time, so you need to be quite strategic about this whole approach. Then again, in terms of how we prepare you, okay, so we always see the benefit of starting early. So it really pays off if you are diligent and hardworking in terms of really focusing on your research and being proactive in terms of looking for the right professor or professors to work with, so that you can easily get into the right conferences. Of course, the first thing is you submit to conferences and get feedback, after which you submit to journals, or you can do some concurrent steps as well in terms of getting it to a conference, and then you can already submit it to a journal, because they're not mutually exclusive anyway. So in terms of submission, I guess it really depends, right, of whether you have a ready paper to submit. But I think bottom line is you start early. How many works? Okay, so there's another one. So how many works of PhD candidates is on the review process? A typical PhD student, you mean how many do they sub? Oh, again, it varies from individual to individual. We have some PhD students who are more proactive than others. Of course, we do encourage all our PhD students to be diligent, to be prepared, and of course, the faculty would very much be willing to mentor them. But again, a lot of the PhD success has to do with, or academic success has to do with being a proactive researcher, okay, and being able to be self-directed as well, because unlike undergrad programs, right, in the postgrads, particularly in PhD, there's a lot of self-motivation going on. So you really have to be very much self-directed and proactive in this whole process. Okay, so I think I've answered that already. Thank you, George.
There are some questions. So yeah, no, I don't think you have other questions. So there are some questions about for LMO in the chat, Thomas. What kind of learning resources are available in the program?
Yeah. This particular question, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by learning resources, in the sense that, yeah, we will obviously have, there will be computers will be available, there will be learning resources in terms of access to library and materials, learning resources in terms of, you may have, based on your supervisor, there may be research grants that provide additional learning resources or materials available for you. Databases are typically the business school subscribes to as a whole, so there'll be a lot of access to databases that you may want to incorporate into your research. So those would be the main learning resources that I would think of. There was an earlier question about the exam that was kind of directed at both marketing and OB. So for organizational behavior at this point, we do not incorporate strategy exam into our OB Q&E. So the exam for OB will really just focus on OB. But we do consider strategy an important outlook for our LMO students, because you are going to be trying to make a difference to companies in the real world. And if you don't have some understanding of strategy or broader organizational topics, you'll be too micro in your orientation. So the way that we handle this, we consider strategy or organizational theory courses that are offered by the strategy division or by NUS and SMU as some essential learning and requirement for our students as part of the coursework that they do, but they will not be part of the actual exam for QE.
Okay. There are 3 questions for banking and finance.
Yeah, so one person is asking, so the person doesn't have any research experience yet.
Yeah.
And so I think that is fine. I think it's, I mean, at least from our perspective, the nice thing if you have research experience is that we kind of have more confidence that you know that what you're getting yourself into, versus if you've never done research, you just kind of a cursory level think that might be of interest to you. Then we might be a little bit concerned, like, does this person really know what it means to do research for the next 5 years plus the rest of his or her life? I mean, that's the only reason we kind of like having someone with some sort of research experience. Now, if you can gauge from your application that you're really, really into research, even you haven't done a formal research yet, I think that's fine. There's another question, a student is interested in digital banking. Would that be a good fit? I think so. We have a bunch of faculty doing work on fintech. So I think that's fine. And the last question is, so you seem to prefer quantitative background. I have a major in financial econometrics and experience in IA-related research. Would that count? Yeah, I don't think it gets any more quantitative than that. I think that's it.
Great. Let me see. So somebody asks whether he or she can specialize in intellectual property management or strategy. If yes, which track would I need to choose? Anyone here that thinks that this topic will be appropriate? Intellectual property management. Not really, right? Maybe we don't know what exactly you mean by intellectual property management. I can see it fitting to maybe item or operation management, but probably you need to be a little bit more specific. But try to do what has been suggested. Try to see what our faculty is doing when you explore their web pages and see whether if this is what you want to do. To see. For QE in marketing and OB, should we need to finish the thesis at year 2?
Yeah, so maybe I can answer that question, and Prof. Thomas can jump in. So for I think for marketing PhD, and in fact for our PhD program, you don't have to finish your thesis in year 2. So I mean, I think as Prof. George has mentioned, in the first 2 years, you kind of focus more on the courseworks and you will get started with some research. So the ideal situation is that, by the end of the second year, you kind of have an idea of what kind of the research you want to do for your thesis. And you will probably start, preparing for your thesis in year 2, or when you're kind of approaching the end of year 2, but you're only expected to finish your thesis in year 4 or year 5, depending on when you want to graduate. Right. So essentially, when it comes to finding a job, you just need like a working paper, and you don't have to actually finish your thesis before you apply for a job. You only need to finish your thesis when you need to graduate. So that's typically about end of year 4 or like year 5, depending on your specific situation.
Yeah, maybe to add on to that from the LMO perspective. So I think maybe what is inside that question is also about when you're getting onto the job market and you're trying to calculate backwards, if it takes 2 years for a paper to be published, then when do you need to submit your paper to get out? So in principle, for us, it's the same, that there's no requirement for you to finish your thesis in year 2. The submission or finishing of the thesis is at the end of the graduation, right? But obviously, when you are entering a PhD program, you're trying to think about what will happen at the next stage that you are getting into, right? Which will be on the job market for an assistant professorship. And to that end, you do want to have some research papers published and ideally in top journals already. So as a PhD student, then how do you do this, right? So a big piece is you have to start early with your research. I think as what Prof Marilyn mentioned as well. But you may not need to think of your thesis as the only piece of research that you're going to be publishing, right? So in fact, you may be working on research projects with supervisors or with faculty that allow you to submit publications already, even though while you are still working on conducting your thesis, right? In fact, that's probably something that you should be considering as part of the PhD program, that you are always looking out for publications and areas where you can publish papers already, because that will make you more competitive on the job market.
Great. There's a question for Xiaodan and Xiangyu is, how did you prepare for your applications to the PhD program?
Maybe I can answer first, and then I will pass to Xiaodan later. I applied to this program like 3 years ago. So at that time, I do not have any research, not have any research paper at that time. So I prepare a research proposal, and also I think there is another thing called like a statement of why I apply for the NBS. So for the research proposal, I think most professors already mentioned. I just go through the faculty's their website to look at what they are doing, to see if there anything they do I am interested in. So I just write up after I reading their papers. And for the statement of why I want to apply for NBS, I basically do the same thing. I go through the faculty websites, look at their current papers, and find out like which areas I'm interested in, things like that. And for the standard test like GMAT, I think there are many test preparation websites which you can go to. Those websites will be helpful to you if you need to prepare for the GMAT. Yeah, I think that's basically what I do. And yeah, that's it. And I will pass to Xiaodan.
Okay, I think just like Chen mentioned, a lot of things that except the admission criteria you need to meet, and also you need to submit a proposal and SOP when you're during the process of application. And I think at that time, maybe you don't need to have a publication or paper, but you need to prepare yourself, have some, at least have some general interest, what you want to do, maybe, because I think PhD program is not a 3 months commitment. It's more like to, I think in a life as like 4 or 5 years. So need to think very clearly what kind of general questions or topics you have interest in, and to find what kind of professor you would like to work with. I think research skills is a plus, because you have already know what kind of project you may kind of to conduct and how to analyze this program. And I think that is also to provide some confidence for the professors. You have the potential quality to have to get admission for this program. Yes.
Okay. All right, there are many questions. I'll try to answer as many as I can. Okay. So what qualities do you expect from a potential PhD student? Is basically what you see on the screen. I think we discussed this quite a lot, but generally you have some formal or semi-formal requirements about your grades, your degree, English, all right. But this will not be enough. It's neither necessary nor sufficient, all right? So we need people that are passionate, that they want to do research and they understand the complexities, and they treat research seriously. It's not like a hobby or something like that. Now, how to prepare a meaningful research proposal that can be accepted? Well, that's quite difficult, but generally you can follow if you read the research papers, it's the same structure pretty much. It's an introduction where you somehow explain the current state of the research, do a mini literature review maybe, and then you pose a question, maybe a hypothesis, and then you explain how you would like to test it. Of course, we don't have expectations for you to write a full paper or a full research paper, because that's what I'm going to train you. But this will help us first to understand that you have some exposure to research and you can somehow formulate the questions. And secondly, when we interview you, is a good way for us to start discussing different topics and see how you intellectually approach some questions. Can I submit my research proposal submitted to another conference but rejected before? Well, we're not a conference, so but of course you can submit anything, all right? But don't plagiarize or don't copy. Even if it's yours, sometimes it's considered not ethical. So I would suggest to work on it and rewrite somehow. Don't just copy and paste. I mean, we will demonstrate that somehow you are a little bit lazy, if I may. All right. So be a little bit more serious about that. What challenges the PhD student need to overcome, especially publication? How does one overcome? Well, I mean, it's basically hard work. So the challenge is to collect the data, of course. The challenge is to do analysis. The challenge is to write and present. That's what we're going to teach you. But above all, it needs for you to be resilient and persistent. You need to learn how to write well. You need to learn how to do proper data analysis. This is typically what is needed to publish. First publication is hard, but that's why we are here to help you. But later it becomes, it's always still difficult, but it's a different way, different problems.
Can I add maybe one thing?
Yeah, please stop me at any time.
No, yeah, one thing is, so I worked in consulting before, and one thing
yes, great.
is you do a project and then you get immediately feedback, right? So every week you get at least 2-3 like feedbacks and you feel like you're progressing, versus in academia things are extremely slow. So you work on a project for months, you then send it to a journal, you wait for a few months and you hear back. They want you to do certain things that takes a few months. It's very slow, and sometimes it takes a certain kind of person to be able to handle that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's a different pace and slow. Not only because we are slow, but because sometimes the problems are much more complex than just consulting, all right? And they have many aspects. There's a question on information system. What academic background is required to apply for PhD in IS? I'm sorry.
All right, I will take it. So that is a great question. Now, in general, we do expect applicants to have some understanding with regards to what IT is. So typically, we do receive applicants with IT-related training, be it bachelor degrees or master degrees, such as information system degrees. Sometimes even computer science degrees can be very helpful. But that is actually not the entire story. We also accept applicants with other kinds of training background, such as data science, engineering, which is closely related to what we are doing. We do have a couple of applicants, and we have received 1 or 2 of them in the past with a background in communication. So that's essentially about understanding, again, how to communicate, how to persuade others. So in general, we do consider case by case. It is important for you, if you are applying to us, to essentially demonstrate your understanding in terms of what IT or information system is. I think that is one of the very important consideration criteria.
Great. Okay, somebody asked, can I tell the topic required in business administration and entrepreneurship? Yeah, just browse our web pages. You can find tons of topics. Do marketing and leadership department accept PhD students on a rolling basis? I don't know what you mean rolling basis, but generally the entry is for August intake, and sometimes we take a January intake. one of the key challenges was the ability to read literature, which is very dense. Do you have any words on how to read and access literature? Well, there is literature that is available online. I don't know if your university has access to that. And of course, when you join, we're going to teach you how to identify the research that is relevant to your question. What is the average age range of each cohort? We don't have age restriction. Well, you have to be above 18 for sure, unless you are somebody very clever. But generally, it's like middle to late 20s, so around 30, I would say, or younger. If my bachelor's university don't have a honors distinction degree, can I use the rank? Yes. You tell me if there are professors working on supply chain finance topic. I guess yes. Supply chain finance, is it item? Is it division of banking? And operational management, I guess, right? So there are, I think you can just look on operational management or banking and finance. Okay, I don't think I have other. Okay, will it be relatively more difficult to apply for PhD degree as a coursework master student? You mean compared to coursework? Those are different requirements, right? It's different requirements to enter a master than a PhD. I don't think we have any other questions. I try to cover everything. But if you have any questions, feel free to email us. The PhD office. Should be straightforward to find the email, but I think, yeah, here is other emails. But seriously, if you cannot find the email, don't do research. Right? It's so easy now to find. Google something, all right? So for this, we're gonna wrap up. And I would like to thank all of my colleagues and the students. And please send us your questions. And I think if you come and join us, you'll make a great choice for your career and your life, actually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.